happen to good people. None of us were ever really born equal. Only one life, there ain't no sequel. Some people live, others stay fearful. This world ain't never been peaceful. You got good, always butting heads against evil. The good try to be fair, but the bad lethal. They gon' fight dirty, every single one deceitful. Stand up, I wanna see your face. Get your chin up like you belong in this place. We gon' train like you've never trained before. You're going up against something that you can't ignore. This ain't a game, this your life that we're playing with. There ain't no reset button or an off switch. You gotta face your fears, you gotta scratch the itch. You gotta break through the walls and get after it. Only time will tell who's gonna make it. I promise you, I'ma be the one who's gonna take it. I fight, I provide, leaving blood on the pavement. If you're up against me, then you better be praying, cause I'll keep punching till my knuckles start breaking. I'll keep going through the blood that I'm tasting. I won't stop till they've all seen greatness. The battle for my world just started, I've been waiting. Villains and heroes, only time will tell who will win and who will fail. Villains and heroes, no there ain't no one else. Pick a side or by yourself. I got this, there ain't no going back. Leave it all on the battlefield, push the attack. You can't stop me, I'm obsessive. A lot of people think that I come off aggressive, but I'm just passionate. Why aren't you? Ain't nobody care if you got nothing to lose. You gotta put yourself on the line, make moves. Otherwise you'll be a sheep with the lions watching you. Only time will tell who's gonna make it. I promise you, I'ma be the one who's gonna take it. I fight, I provide, leaving blood on the pavement. If you're up against me, then you better be praying, cause I'll keep punching till my knuckles start breaking. I'll keep going through the blood that I'm tasting. I won't stop till they've all seen greatness. The battle for my world just started, I've been waiting. Villains and heroes, only time will tell who will win and who will fail. Villains and heroes, no there ain't no one else. Pick a side or by yourself. Today is the day, don't waste any time, know it's time to make a change. Up in your mind, rearrange, start thinking you're the hero headed out on your way. There's gonna be good times and bad times, that's alright, just stay on the line. Cause in life we all got a different mission, but the good guy always wins, that's a given. If you stay committed, you stay driven, you'll be looking down the barrel of completing the mission. Ignition, light the flame, get the fire in you, listen. Take these words deep, cause this is real, ain't no fiction. You don't need drugs, help, any prescription. Just persistence and energy can win any competition. So keep fighting, facing any opposition, and be the hero in a story you yourself have written. Villains and heroes, only time will tell who will win and who will fail. Villains and heroes, no there ain't no one else. Pick a side or by yourself.
I'm here to support Barack Obama to be the next president of the United States. Democrats are very fortunate this year. We have some great candidates. But this isn't about choosing just someone who's good. It's about choosing the best. I think he's proven it. He is a tireless fighter. Every time he speaks, I think he brings hope to a lot of people. And I think that the minute he steps off Air Force One, in whatever part of the globe, people will look and say, that's the President of the United States. People have to know what Barack Obama represents. People have to know that in Barack Obama they have the quality to lead us forward. And people have to know you really want change, then you gotta make that phone call. We now have a chance to get back to what America always has been about, that dream. And so, President Obama leading us forward, bringing the change, a new direction. What more can you have?
short. I'll have you know I was trained in the art of Kaioken.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I will execute the office of President of the United States faithfully.
And I will execute
faithfully the office of President of the United States.
President of the United States faithfully.
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve,
protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President. All the best wishes.
That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
You want to try?
You want me to pay for it? You're a dog.
States. And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs.
Kaioken, KO, whatever. Who cares? I'm still gonna crush you. I don't care what you learn. You'll pay for that. You'll pay. We'll see, but I haven't even warmed up yet. What? Why, you little... Yeah! That was luck. I'm the second strongest Saiyan in the universe. Well, if your friend is stronger than you, then I say that makes you the third strongest. Kakarot! I'm gonna rip you apart! Over here. Wow.
Todd Starnes, President Obama could hardly contain his utter contempt for all of us gun-toting Bible clingers, the people he once called better Americans, almost sneering as he minted the ritual of affirming his belief in the Second Amendment, said it was written on a piece of paper. Well, that piece of paper is called the United States Constitution, Mr. President. It might do you some good to read it every now and again. But when you overlook all the president's hollering and weeping and finger-pointing, there was one specific comment he made, one that set off my alarm bells.
All of us should be able to work together to find a balance that declares the rest of our rights are also important. Second Amendment rights are important, but there are other rights that we care about as well, and we have to be able to balance them.
Did you catch that? Did you hear that, folks? President Obama said that we have to balance our constitutional rights. Mark my words, that kind of thinking is how the left will attack religious liberty. Because if they can balance our Second Amendment rights, they will most certainly do the same to our First Amendment rights. I'm Todd Starnes.
Welcome back. President Obama took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. But with regard to his actions over the past years, has he pushed the constitutional anvil apart and kept his oath of office? Here now, President Obama's top constitutional violations of 2013 is Florida International University constitutional law professor Elizabeth Price Foley. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning, Peter. Great to be with you.
I'm happy you're here. Now, you believe that the president has violated the Constitution in a few ways. The first way you say is with regard to Obamacare. Supreme Court upheld Obamacare. How has he violated the Constitution with regard to Obamacare?
Oh, how much time do we have?
Well, we got about 30 seconds. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah, you know, the 5 biggest constitutional violations by the president have been in Obamacare, you know, which, as you know, is the signature legislation of the president. And it's basically sort of become a playground for him to try out an imperial presidency.
So you say he's blown
he
away the employer mandates. He didn't keep his word on that.
That's right. He delayed that for 1 year with the stroke of a pen because the employers basically protested that it was too difficult. He also decided, you know, unilaterally that he was going to grant Congress an exception. The law says that Congress members and their staff have to buy their health insurance through the Obamacare exchanges. He said that they don't have to do that. They can continue to get it through the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, and they continue to enjoy the generous subsidies they've always enjoyed. And these are kinds of subsidies they wouldn't have to pay.
All right, Professor, let's talk
on
about
the exchanges.
Absolutely. Let's talk about so-called recess appointments. Has the president kept faith with the Constitution with regard to making recess appointments? This is going to the Supreme Court, his conduct, isn't it?
That's right. On January 13th, the Supreme Court is going to hear oral argument in a case called Noel Canning. And the question is whether or not the president can appoint members to executive agencies when the Senate is not in recess. Article 2 says he has the power to fill vacancies that happen when the Senate is in recess. But guess what? The Senate wasn't in recess. No other president has ever attempted to fill a vacancy when the Senate wasn't in recess. The D.C. Court of Appeals said that's unconstitutional, and I expect the Supreme Court to say the same thing.
Professor, let's finish up with this one. The president gives a lot of lofty speeches about the power of the First Amendment. Is he keeping faith with the First Amendment, or is he disregarding it?
Far from it. I mean, this is a president that's using his executive power to basically chill speech with which he disagrees politically. Prime example is the IRS scandal, where basically he was using the power of the Internal Revenue Service to provide special scrutiny to Tea Party and other conservative groups because he wanted to shut them down and stop them from speaking prior to the 2012 election. He's doing the same thing with universities. He's got a new speech code that universities have to abide by, which basically says that any utterance that offends someone that's on a sexual topic is to be considered sexual harassment. So any kind of joke, any kind of play, even flirtatious banter could in fact be prosecuted by these universities. That's a violation of students and faculties and staff's First Amendment rights.
In our last 10 or 15 seconds, you also talk about the Mini Dream Act. Tell us how he's kept faith or not in the last few seconds, Professor.
Yeah, you know, this is an act that basically would provide amnesty for certain young people who were brought to this country illegally by their parents. Congress refused to pass this law. The president was mad at that, and his political base was mad. So with a stroke of a pen, he decided he was going to enact the law himself unilaterally. And basically, he's refusing to deport any young person who he says meets certain DREAM Act criteria. So basically, he's enacted a law all by himself.
Professor Elizabeth Price Foley, a brilliant law professor and a great communicator. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again soon.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
Our Constitution is a remarkable, beautiful gift. But it's really just a piece of parchment. It has no power on its own. We, the people, give it power. We, the people, give it meaning with our participation and with the choices that we make and the alliances that we forge. Whether or not we stand up for our freedoms, whether or not we respect and enforce the rule of law, that's up to us. America's no fragile thing, but the of our long journey to freedom are not assured.
The Obama administration, however, has ignored the Constitution's carefully balanced separation of powers and unilaterally granted itself the extra constitutional authority to amend the laws and to waive or suspend their enforcement. This raw assertion of authority goes well beyond the executive power granted to the president and specifically violates the Constitution's command that the president is to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. The president's encroachment into Congress's sphere of power is not a transgression that should be taken lightly. From Obamacare to immigration, the current administration is picking and choosing which laws to enforce.
If you disrespect the Constitution before you're elected president, and you threaten to shut down the press when it writes stories about you don't like, or you threaten to throw your opponent in jail without any due process, or you discriminate against people of different faiths, then imagine what you'll do when you actually have the power to violate the Constitution along those lines.
So let me begin by saying this to you and to the American people. I know that there are millions of Americans who are content with their health care coverage. They like their plan, and most importantly, they value their relationship with their doctor. They trust you. And that means that no matter how we reform health care, we will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period. No one will take it away, no matter what. My view is that health care reform should be guided by a simple principle: fix what's broken and build on what works. And that's what...
Standing and political brinkmanship continues, with the White House insisting that Obamacare, a law upheld by the Supreme Court, is not up for negotiations tied to funding the government.
Let's take a vote in the House. Let's end this shutdown right now. Let's put people back to work. There are enough reasonable Republicans and Democrats in the House who are willing to vote yes on a budget that the Senate has already passed. That vote would take place today. Shutdown would be over. Then serious negotiations could proceed around every item in the budget.
But 8 days into the government shutdown and 9 days from a possible default, the Speaker has called the refusal to negotiate an untenable position.
There's never been a president in our history that did not negotiate over the debt limit. Never. Not once. As a matter of fact, President Obama negotiated with me over the debt limit in 2011. He also negotiated with the Blue Dog Democrats to raise the debt ceiling in 2010. So the way to resolve this is to sit down and have a conversation.
Not raising the debt ceiling would jeopardize the government's ability to borrow and meet its financial obligations, something economists warn could push the country back into a devastating recession. Shervin Briceby's SABC News, New York.
Life is a constant battle, my friends. It throws challenges our way, testing our limits and pushing us to the edge. But let me tell you something. The greatest power lies within each and every one of you. Deep down, there's a fire waiting to be unleashed. A power that can move mountains and overcome any obstacle. It's not just about physical strength. It's about the strength of your character, your resilience, and your unwavering spirit. Tap into that power, and you'll realize that you are capable of achieving the impossible. I've faced formidable adversaries, enemies who seemed invincible. But in the face of adversity, I refused to bow down or give in. I discovered that true strength is not just about physical might, but about the power of the spirit, the unwavering resolve to stand tall, no matter what. So let us push past our limits, break through the barriers, and reach for the stars. Let's embrace the battles ahead, for they are the crucibles that will forge us into legends. Believe in yourself, trust in your potential, and together we will transcend our limits and achieve greatness. Remember the time I first transformed? It was born out of a burning rage, a deep desire to protect those I loved. In that moment, I tapped into a power that surpassed anything I had ever known. It was a testament to the limitless potential within us all. You see, our past experiences don't define us. They shape us, yes, but they don't determine our future. I've had my fair share of failures and setbacks. I've tasted defeat and felt the weight of disappointment, but I never allowed those moments to define me. Instead, I used them as stepping stones to grow even stronger. Failure is not the end. It's an opportunity to learn, to evolve. When I lost my first battle, it could have been the end of everything, but instead, it became a catalyst for my transformation. I harnessed the pain, the anger, and the frustration and turned them into power. You might stumble, you might fall, but it's what you do next that truly matters. It's about picking yourself up, dusting off the dirt, and rising stronger than ever before. Failure is not an option.
Senator, we now recognize the gentleman from Arizona, Dr. Gosar.
Senator Lee, thank you so very much. This just brings point to point of reference that this isn't the only thing that you may have seen as a violation of our Constitution, because it seems that we feign these rules when we want them, and then we disdain them when we choose to avoid them. Are there any other things that you have seen this administration do besides these appointments that have bothered you in regards to the Constitution, violation of the Constitution, rules and regulations?
I've had a number of disagreements with this administration, both on matters of policy and on matters of constitutional interpretation. Let me just focus on two or three. One dealt with the President's decision to engage the United States in something that I consider a war in Libya without a declaration of war from Congress. That is a congressional prerogative outlined in Article 1, Section 8, and not only did he not get a declaration from Congress, but he didn't even consult Congress. He sort of advised a few leaders in Congress as the jets were on their way to undertake that action, but he never got a declaration of war. I wasn't real pleased with that. Nor was I pleased with the President's decision to sign legislation that I read as undermining the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights of individual Americans that can be read as I read it, to give the executive branch the power to detain indefinitely even U.S. citizens without trial, without a formal grand jury indictment, without the right to counsel or trial before a grand jury based on an allegation that they've become enemy combatants. He signed that while protesting it, but I disagreed with his decision to sign it. I certainly disagreed with the policy and the constitutional analysis that went into the passage and signing by the President of the Affordable Care Act. And I disagree with the constitutional analysis outlined in this 23-page memorandum written by the Office of Legal Counsel. Very good lawyers, some of the very best I know, and they did the best job that they could, but they came to a conclusion that is wrong.
So, Senator, so if we exert, trump the Constitution, the checks and balances are relatively slow, are they not?
Yes.
So you have the monarchy looking at the ability to enforce or push something forward without having a means to correct it very quickly.
Yes. Yes, that's right. And the fact that it's slow is by design. That's how we prevent the undue accretion of power to a chief executive, which the Founding Fathers knew presented some danger to individual liberty in America. And that's why we split up the power of the chief executive. Now, it's interesting. Every time our federal government has expanded, and every time the authority of the executive has expanded at the expense of the Congress, and every time federal authority has expanded at the expense of the states, you've always had one common ingredient, a president. Presidents like Woodrow Wilson, especially Woodrow Wilson during and in the lead up and the aftermath of World War I, who have said, look, these are desperate times, and I've got to be able to act, and I can't be slowed down by this elected body who doesn't want to do my will as quickly as I want it to do. If you look back to that era, you'll see that a lot of individual liberties were violated, and you'll see that the government expanded at the federal level at the expense of the states. You'll see that the president's authority often expanded at the expense of Congress. We need to not make those kinds of mistakes again and again and again. This is the kind of thing that, if left unchecked, will easily turn into another one of those mistakes.
And, I caution my colleagues on the other side of the aisle of upholding rules. I hope they remember that tomorrow.
The Obama administration is clearly violating the Constitution. This is an issue to the subset of which I write about in my book, about the way the Obama administration has strayed from the law. Understand this, there is the Civil Rights Act that prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender. There's Title IX of the Education Code that prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender. Regarding both of those acts, the United States Congress considered whether or not to include transgender, and they refused to do so. So Barack Obama is now supplanting the position of Congress and himself trying to write law that Congress refused to write. That violates the Constitution. So the Obama administration is clearly wrong in what it is trying to force the states to do.
So a traffic stop turned into a shootout. A man died, shot by Harris County deputies. This started when a deputy pulled him over for a busted taillight, expired registration, around 5 o'clock yesterday in the evening. Deputies spent about an hour trying to get the guy to get out of his car. He refused, claiming sovereign citizenship. The man then took off. Deputies chased him down, stopped the chase with a pit maneuver in 1960 in Ella, North Harris County. That's when they say the man did get out of the car and started shooting at deputies. 3 deputies and a sergeant fired back, hitting and killing the man. A woman in a car, sitting in a car nearby at a grocery store, was hit by a stray bullet. She was taken to the hospital and should pull through. No deputies were hurt.
This is a reminder that sovereign defiance can sometimes turn into violence, that sometimes individuals that claim to be sovereign believe that they're not subject to government authority or law enforcement authority. And at the end of the day, our deputies are not required to allow anyone to violate the law.
A stray bullet also hit a privately owned school bus that was driving by at the time. A man and a woman were on that bus. Not one of them was hurt.
Hey, thank you, Tim. Primary day is drawing closer here in the Palmetto State. The new year kicked off with Republican presidential candidate Marco Rubio making a stop here in the Midlands.
We have forgotten, at least many in government and in Washington have forgotten what made America the greatest country in the world. And the result is what we see today. The anger, the frustration.
Senator Rubio spoke and took questions from voters at Hudson's Smokehouse in Lexington. Our Mike DeSima was there and joins us live now with more. Mike?
Well,
I'll say I'm a Florida senator using what little time he has left ahead of that critical early primary, really to speak to voters, make the case for why he should be the one in the Oval Office. The smokehouse behind me has been a stopping point for several Republican presidential candidates over the years. Today, Rubio's camp will not only use this day to stop here in the Midlands, but also really sweep the state, or try to, making several stops in the Low Country earlier on Saturday. Now, when it already has been a long campaign for Marco Rubio, he's really had his work cut out for him. Several polls taken last month put him in third place for the Republican nod behind Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. Those polls projected results both nationwide as well as here with voters in South Carolina. Now, today, Rubio really used his time to attack Democrats on issues ranging from health care to foreign policy and defense spending. Rubio had sharp words both for Democratic presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton as well as President Barack Obama.
Our Constitution is being systematically violated and ignored, treated as an outdated document by this president. He violates the Second Amendment with executive orders and wages constant war against it. Our religious liberties are being eroded under this White House.
Rubio and other Republicans are set to spar in several upcoming debates scheduled for January here in South Carolina. The primaries, of course, coming to the state last 2 Saturdays in February. Live in Lexington, Machasuma, WIS News 10.
Maverick U.S. Republican Senator Rand Paul is suing President Obama and the directors of national intelligence, the NSA and FBI, for violating the Fourth Amendment. In the latest fallout from the Snowden leaks, which exposed illegal government snooping, Paul is allying with the Tea Party-aligned FreedomWorks group.
On behalf of myself, FreedomWorks, and everyone in America that has a phone, we are filing suit against the President of the United States in defense of the Fourth Amendment. We will ask the question in court whether a single warrant can apply to the records of every American phone user all of the time, without limits, without individualization.
Paul, a libertarian, is confident the case will go all the way to the Supreme Court. The Fourth Amendment is designed to protect Americans from unreasonable searches, something Paul says Obama has publicly refused to stop. Wholesale bugging of American citizens' communications began under President George Bush in 2006.
And breaking tonight in a Kelly File exclusive, we have learned the powerful House Judiciary Committee is now planning to push back after President Obama is again accused of ignoring the Constitution and overstepping his authority. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. We brought you the breaking news last night about the president's decision to delay parts of the Obamacare law for certain employers, again appearing to rewrite the law on the fly. This now marks more than 24 changes he has made to the Affordable Care Act without ever going through Congress. And while executive orders are nothing new for presidential administrations, this newest addition prompted angry new reaction from lawmakers, joining the growing number of voices who say this president is going too far. Here is some of what we've heard in recent days.
We have an increasingly lawless presidency. Presidents don't write laws, Congress does.
What this president has done is unprecedented. What this president has done is to repeatedly change laws, even laws that he himself has pushed through Congress for his own political benefit.
He's violating the law. He's exceeded his constitutional authority.
This president seems to have an extra frustration with it, and he reacts to it through unilateral actions that I think are counterproductive and, in my opinion, in some instances, borderline unconstitutional.
For the president to simply declare, I'm going to change this law that Congress has passed, is unconstitutional. He's outside the bounds of his Article 2 limitations.
The president says he has a pen and a cell phone, but the American people have a Constitution, and the Constitution doesn't give him the authority to unilaterally change the law. He's got to come to the Congress to do that.
This president and this administration enforce the laws they choose to enforce and ignores the laws they want to ignore for political expedience. This is the very definition of lawlessness, and something that the American people do not tolerate and will not tolerate, nor should they be required to tolerate.
Well, you just heard mention of Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. It establishes the executive branch and outlines the powers of the president, granting to him the authority to execute and implement the laws of the United States. But where does implementation end and rewriting begin? The constitutionality of this president's behavior turns on that critical question. And more legal scholars from the left and the right are saying that President Obama has crossed a constitutional line here.
Why don't you just stand still and perish? Let me see what you've got. Why, you worm! You dare to mock me! What's the matter, Frieza? I can't be harder to destroy than a planet, right? What are you? You haven't figured it out yet. I'm the Saiyan who came all the way from Earth for the sole purpose of feeding you. I am the warrior you've heard of in legends, pure of heart and awakened by fury. That's what I am. Super Saiyan Son Goku!
Well, I stand corrected. I never thought there might be truth behind those ridiculous old stories. And who'd have guessed that it would have taken someone so disgustingly pure to unlock that Super Saiyan power? But it makes sense. At least it would explain why Vegeta was never able to become one.
Don't worry, Krillin and Dende. There's no way my dad's gonna lose. He'll make sure you didn't die for nothing. He'll avenge you both, I promise! Hey, we're almost there! That's the spaceship that my dad came to Namek in!
It's a good idea.
Good to be here, Neil. Thank you for having me.
You know, he would not be the first president to be doing this stuff while Congress is essentially away. These recess appointments, out-of-pocket appointments, other deals. He rarely gets this, you're quite right, as Senator Obama, but he's practicing as President Obama. I don't think any of this stuff ever goes away, do you?
Well, here's what we know for sure, Neil. We're focused on jobs. That's what I'm focused on. That's what the American people want the president to be focused on. And if he were focused on jobs rather than playing politics, what happened yesterday would not have happened. You know, the Congress of the United States is a co-equal branch of government under the Constitution, co-equal to the president. And as such, the Congress has the authority to determine when it's in session and what determines when it's in session.
But he wanted,
I'm
just saying to give him his due here, he wanted to get these people approved to Congress, submitted to Congress. Congress wouldn't take it up. Just as when President Bush was in the White House, he wanted to get a vote on John Bolton to become our ambassador to the United Nations. The Democratic Congress wouldn't take it up. So he took matters into his own hands because he said the nation's security was a front issue, and this was an affront to have Congress ignore it. The president, this president, I don't think is saying the same here. You don't connect the two?
No, I do not connect the two, because this is not a national security issue that we're talking about here, Neil. This is not about, and let me make it clear, this is not a debate on whether or not America needs a consumer financial protection Bureau. It's about how this president is continuing to overreach, whether it's through regulations that attack the coal industry,
But the
whether it's
Bureau's
through
going to happen one way or the other. The Bureau is already on the books, right? So,
but the law that put that Bureau in place, that authorized it, Dodd-Frank, made it very clear that to set it up, it must have Senate approval. And the president cannot just arbitrarily change the rules or decide on his own that the Senate's definition of when it's in session and when it's not in session,
but I thought the Senate did approve, grudgingly, that this consumer protection is coming. It just presents the way the president tried to, out of the dark, get its leader in place.
Look, the Constitution is very clear. Each of the branches of government are co-equal. The Senate has the authority to determine when it's in session and when it's not. And this
So you
week,
said the president just
Senate
ignored
was
that,
in
this
full form of
violation,
session.
and that's the issue. Gotcha.
It's my opinion that the president may have very well violated it, and that's why you're hearing for the first time tonight, Neil, my intentions. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to launch an effort to reach out to attorneys who want to volunteer their time and who want to protect the Constitution as I do, to give me their views. And if they determine...
Wait, you just buried the lead here. Whoa. So what are you going to do? That sounds like an impeachable offense.
Let me finish. Yeah, if they determine that this is a violation of the Constitution, I'm going to ask them to represent me as a plaintiff in a lawsuit against President Barack Obama to hold him in compliance and accountable with the Constitution.
Well,
Look,
if you are not doing something that the Constitution says you should be doing, that's an impeachable offense. What you're telling me is that if lawyers agree upon investigating what you're saying, that the president has ignored the Constitution, you are telling me that the president has committed acts that are impeachable offenses. Am I getting it right?
I'm telling you that if I'm not an attorney, and I don't profess to be one, but if constitutional attorneys who want to work with me and advise me on this issue determine that the president has violated the Constitution, then I'm going to ask them to represent me in a lawsuit against the president to hold him in compliance.
To hold him in compliance
it
with the
doesn't matter to
Constitution?
me.
I know, I'm not a lawyer either, but I'm telling you, what you're saying, I know that the strictest definition of going after president on impeachable grounds is when he has violated the tenets of the Constitution or any article therein. If you get your way, if the lawyers agree, then you are bringing impeachable offenses to it, right?
If that's what it's called, if that's the legal term for it, then that's what it's called. And I can also tell you that, I'm not in favor of any president violating the Constitution. It doesn't matter which party they belong to.
All right. Wow. Congressman, thank you. More to this.
Hey, why can't I hit you? Just tell me!
You didn't say please!
Please? What? Please? You? Alright then!
You can destroy planets, but you can never destroy what I am, friend.
You? What are you?
I am the hope of the universe. I am the answer to all living things that cry out for peace. I am protector of the innocent. I am the light in the darkness. I am truth.
Allied to good! How will Frieza be able to stand up to Goku now that the legendary power of the Super Saiyan has awakened within him? Don't miss the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Kicking it off with a Fox News alert, President Obama laying out his plan to overhaul gun safety laws with sweeping reforms he talked about today. It was an emotional speech. Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Carlson. This is the real story on that and much more today. The president getting choked up as he spoke about victims of gun violence.
Our unalienable right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, those rights were stripped from college kids in Blacksburg and Santa Barbara, and from high schoolers at Columbine, and from first graders in Newtown. First graders. And from every family who never imagined that their loved one would be taken from our lives by a bullet from a gun. Every time I think about those kids, it gets me mad.
Well, the president says his new executive orders will not prevent all gun violence, but are common sense reforms. So here's what he's calling for. Licensing requirements for all gun dealers, including those online or at a gun show. Dealers must also now report lost or stolen firearms. States will also be able to easily share mental health information, and the president also adding more ATF and FBI staffers to expedite those background checks. Well, he also pushed to fund new gun safety technology. Judge Andrew Napolitano is a Fox News senior judicial analyst, and his job today is to analyze what the president did. So what do you make of it?
Well, some of what the president did is well within his authority. Can he hire more FBI agents? Yes. Can he dedicate more discretionary funds to mental health issues? Yes. Can he broaden the database of information that is accessed when doing background checks? Yes. But the most significant thing he has attempted to do, or will attempt to do when he signs an executive order later today, is to create a new crime by saying that if you sell as few as 2 guns or transfer as a gift as few as 2 guns, you are a dealer, and you therefore need a federal license. And if you transfer the guns as a gift without a federal license, you can be prosecuted. Why is that troublesome?
Right.
Because Congress 3 times rejected that proposal. So he is attempting to rewrite laws. Look, if he doesn't like the gun laws, he can argue to people, get your representatives to change them, but he can't change them on his own.
Okay, let's look at the number of criminal weapon convictions over the years, because he talked today about federal law, but there are laws that are already on the books that apparently are not being used, because when you look back in time, look at this, in the fiscal year 2015, there were 6,002 criminal weapons convictions, but they're down 5.8% from last year. They're down 15.5% from 5 years ago. They're down 34.8% from 10 years ago. And then in an anomaly, they're up a whole bunch from 20 years ago.
Okay, one of the things that he also promised to do today was to enforce federal gun laws. Gretchen, that is not newsworthy. It should not be newsworthy. His job has been to enforce federal gun laws since January 20th, 2009.
Why would people be against dealers reporting lost or stolen firearms?
I don't know that people are against it, but it is very important the way laws are written in this country. They can only be written by the Congress. They cannot be written by the president. Many people may favor his proposals. He claims that the polls show that even gun owners favor his proposals. And I'm not in a position to dispute that, but of course you can find polls to support anything. But under our system, his job is not to take a poll and then decide what laws he's going to write. His job is to enforce the laws that Congress has written.
But every president does executive orders, executive actions, hundreds of them.
Yes.
So what will stop him? Will the court stop him with it?
If he attempts to prosecute someone, if his Justice Department attempts to prosecute someone who failed to register as a dealer because they gave a gun to their nephew, that person and that person's lawyer will challenge the prosecution, and presumably this regulation that he came up with on his own will be invalidated by the courts.
Real quickly, the next president in office can wipe this out.
Absolutely. The next president, he or she could ignore it or could rescind it.
All right. Judge, thank you much.
You're welcome, Rich.
Time now for my take. Could President Obama's actions actually backfire with regard to gun sales? In December 2015, there were 3.31 million background checks for firearms, the highest number of checks for any month on record. For the entire year of 2015, there were 23.1 million checks, higher than any other year on record. Since during President Obama's first year in office, there were 14 million background checks. That equates to a 65% increase in checks from his first year to his second. Comparatively, President George W. Bush's 8-year tenure showed a 42% increase in checks from 8.9 million in his first year to 12.7 in his last. There are no real numbers on the actual number of firearms sold in this country because the government does not track that stat. That includes activity between private parties because federal law requires checks only for sales from commercial vendors with a federal license. But with the huge increase in background checks, there's no doubt Americans are fearful their Second Amendment right may be hindered, and many are choosing now to act.
It is Friday, January 25th, 2013. Breaking news this morning as a federal appeals court has ruled that President Obama violated the Constitution when he bypassed the Senate to fill vacancies on the National Labor Relations Board. Aaron Zitner is in Washington, D.C. to explain for us. Aaron, give us the backdrop of this ruling this morning.
Well, this is just in and we're trying to sort it out, but this was a federal appeals panel, a 3-judge panel that said President Obama violated the Constitution by making some appointments to the National Labor Relations Board. The violation was because these appointments were made as what are called recess appointments. Usually, the Senate has to confirm these posts, but when Congress is in recess, the President has the option of filling jobs that otherwise require confirmation, and people can serve in those jobs for about 2 years until the next Congress recesses. The thing we don't know is how broad this ruling is. A lot of it could turn on the definition of what a recess is, or it could be something broader about all recess appointments. In other words, we don't know if they objected to the way this recess appointment was done and whether Congress really was in recess when this appointment was made, or whether this affects all of these so-called recess appointments.
And some of the backdrop of this challenge to the appointments came after a lawsuit was filed against the NLRB by a soda bottle and distributor, Noel Canning. That company claimed, among other things, that a board ruling against it in a union dispute last year, that was moot because Obama had not sought the Senate approval for these 3 members. Now, Aaron, let's talk about what the implications of this ruling are beyond just what we have today. What about the appointment of Richard Cordray to head the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Could this have some impact there?
Well, that's right. So these are the 2 things we got to figure out. One is Richard Cordray, who Obama installed as head of the new Consumer Protection Board that came out of the Dodd-Frank law and has been in the news a lot as something the Republicans haven't liked, but which Obama says is needed to protect consumers and give them information about financial products. The Senate refused to confirm Cordray to head the Consumer Protection Board. Obama, again, acting while Congress was in recess, named this guy, Richard Cordray, to head that board. Depending on the scope of today's ruling, it could affect not only the NLRB, but Richard Cordray's appointment to the Consumer Protection Board and perhaps other recess appointments. Second, as you said, this issue came to the court because a soda bottler lost a dispute in a union and challenged the legitimacy of the NLRB people making the ruling. And in invalidating the appointments to the NLRB, the court is also invalidating the actions taken by those so-called illegitimately appointed NLRB members. And so now we need to revisit actions by the Labor Board that were made while these recess appointments were in effect and figure out which ones will stand and which ones will fall.
but you're still just a stupid animal! See? Just a beast!
Frieza?
What?
I'd rather be a brainless beast than a heartless monster. Like you.
You fool!
Yeah, I will always be a warrior. You can't stop me, you can't stop me now. Yeah, I will always be a warrior. You can't lock me, you can't lock me down. I will not lay down my arms, ready to be covered in scars. Cause I will always be a warrior. Late nights, get lost, hard work, the cost. Can't quit, can't stop, this world all cut off. Don't have time to waste, not now. Need to find a way to get out. Cause I'm gone in deep, get lost in the weeds. You know it's all about the conquest, what's next? You gotta put the work in like you're obsessed. Think about what you want, what's your future? What kind of person would it take to seduce her? So what's next? Be obsessed with winning and your success. Make progress, this life is never promised. So feel blessed, live life, don't be too cautious. Trust the process. In too deep, I'll never quit. I wanna see this through. Yeah, I'm all in, and I will hold my head up high. Got what it takes to fight and survive. Yeah, I will always be a warrior. You can't stop me, you can't stop me now. Yeah, I will always be a warrior. You can't lock me, you can't lock me down. I will not